Bienvenido, damas y caballeros. Welcome back to Freeform Radio on the Freeform Network. Hey, Andy, do you think I got like a radio voice for like intros and outros? Does it sound like I
Ooh,
could be on radio?
If someone told you that, then I think they're lying to you. But no, I mean, but I think you have a decent voice for podcasting.
Oh, okay, good. Well, that's a good.
That's better. Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Freeform Network. Send in those questions and suggestions, ffnquestions at gmail.com. But again, this is Freeform Radio. I am one of your hosts. My name is Daniel. Got with me today, Andy.
It's all good, Andy. And by the time this episode drops, the 4th of July passed. Big deal in America. Hope everybody had a good time blowing up stuff, grilling, and drinking a lot of booze. So uh, America survives another year, and hopefully let's keep that trend
Barely.
going. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, by the time this drops, we'll probably be well past that. But yeah, hopefully everybody's having a safe fourth and listening to this podcast. But yeah, Andy, weather again, man. It's like a streak of like I don't want to jinx this, but man, there's up here in Lake County is very little rain, but it's sunny, but not overly hot to where like it's unbearable. You can't be outside kind of thing. But yeah, man, the weather has been great lately. So yeah, jumping into this week, Andy, I see college football is gearing up, and I know Alana's getting geared up for even NFL because I think in 12 weeks, I think she told me, or 9 weeks, something like that rings in my head, NFL starts. So college football ramping up as well.
So, I mean, for by the time this episode drops, I think we'll have some of the news that we're waiting on. But last year, uh, this it kind of like this was like the Big Bang, where Oklahoma and Texas left the Big 12 to go to the SEC conference, and it was like a big. It was like it shook everybody up, and they're like, "What does this mean?" Um, there's people speculating. Right now there's 5 conferences that this might turn into 2 big mega conferences.
Akin
Particular,
like NFL or
yeah, like AFC and NFC.
okay,
This is where people were speculating because there's a lot of money in TV rights, and so the SEC got a hold of Texas and Oklahoma, 2 storied college football programs. They're leaving the Big 12 and going there. And one of the big reasons was money. They get a lot of money, upfront money from the TV deal that SEC has with ESPN. So this weekend, it broke that UCLA and USC is leaving the Pac-12. 2 storied programs. They've been with the Pac-12 for like, I think USC has been there like 100 years, and UCLA has been there with them like 96 years, and they're leaving to go to the Big Ten. And the Big Ten accepted they approved the application to join the conference. Um, so that's like, and they're in California. The Big Ten's known for having teams in the Midwest, the farthest one, Nebraska, Minnesota, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, um, Indiana, and then the East Coast, they got Rutgers and Maryland and Penn State. Um, so it's a big deal because the TV rights for the Big Ten network are coming up, and supposedly they're going to be the first college football conference to get $1 billion for college football rights. And the way that breaks down, each school, each university, Dan, I don't know how understand. It's kind of like how the NFL now. The NFL has the TV deals, and then they give each team like an amount each year,
right?
like 90 million, 100 million, 200 million, just from the team. They all split the money. Well, the Big Ten's get each team, even if your team sucks, is just gonna get from TV money $100 million starting after the new contract starts.
Wow,
Compare
so
that to,
everybody's gonna get the same.
yeah.
Okay,
So like Illinois, University of Illinois, they're like mediocre. They're gonna get 100 million. Indiana, they're all right. They're gonna get 100 million. And then Michigan and Ohio State, 2 prominent universities, they're gonna get 100 million.
Now, I don't know your take on this. I'm a noob as far as it comes to college football, but to me, that sounds kind of good. I mean, maybe some of these shitty teams will start getting better, and some of the better teams will retain some of
Well,
their
yeah,
talent.
it's you go to college, you get 4 years, and then now we're the college athlete. You don't get money, or they give you as a scholarship.
Well, now
You're
they're going to
go
get paid, right? Because
Now they're
didn't they
getting
just pass
NIL
something?
deals. Yeah,
Right.
so
Yeah, they
that
just
they
passed
need
something.
money to pay. But yeah, so that's why I'm saying that kind of like threw gas on the fire where like college football is changing. That was another big thing. And USC, UCLA, they're part of the Pac-12. I think right now they're making like they were gonna get like 30 million a year. So what do you take, 30 million or 100 million? Right, just on the economics alone, I'm like, I'm gonna get if I could go over here and get 100 million, I'd be stupid not to take it.
Right. I mean, I really don't see what the big fuss is about.
Well,
The divisions and things moving around. I get the money brokering part. I understand that that might be an issue, but if they're doing it like the NFL, where the NFL brokers the TV deals with NBC, CBS, Fox,
yeah,
ESPN, and all them, and then they split the money between all the franchises, then I don't really see a problem.
no,
So it
the
sounds like that's
economics
what college
the
football is going
economics of
towards.
it, yeah, that's a good thing, but you're missing out what college football is. It's kind of like a territory thing, a regional thing.
Oh, like
So
WWE,
yeah,
like Vince
so think about
McMahon's coming and,
did you
and
hear
bringing
what like that's
territories
what I
together.
said, like USC and UCLA has been part of the Pac-12 for almost 100 years. They meet every year. They play all the West Coast teams. That's going out the window. They have trophy games. Big Ten notor they're it was a Midwest thing. They had trophy games, rivalries. Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, and then the Pac-12 champion and the Big Ten champion would play New Year's Day. They would play in the Rose Bowl. Been going on forever. Like this is all just college football. How I grew up watching is like it's just going out the window because which it's gonna bound to happen. And then the other thing is Notre Dame. Uh, they're part of their. I
Whole
heard
network, right?
they have their own deal with NBC, which they get like 15 to 20 million a year. Big Ten has asked them to join their conference so they're gonna have like 20 teams in the Big Ten, and then SEC right now I think it has 16, and they're talking about adding more. So it's going to be like two huge conferences, and everybody else is going to be left in the dust. And everybody's talking about that, and it's all about, I guess, the traditions of like the bowl games and all that. How's that going to get impacted? It's just it's that whole tradition stuff, which made it college football great, is going out the window quickly. But I get it, money, cash makes everything move. So it's gonna happen, and there's just no way. To me, right now, I'm like, well, maybe they could do a couple things, but it's not gonna happen. It's just gonna be these two mega conferences, and everybody else just you guys do whatever the hell you want.
Wow. So, I mean, help me understand what your concerns are. So it would be like the Bears and the Packers. They have a huge rivalry. They're in the same division, the Central Division. It'd be like splitting them up. One of them going to the West
Like the
Division, and
AFC
one of them
North
staying in the
or the
Central
AFC
Division.
North. Yeah, think about
Right.
that.
So that
And they
now they're
play
not going to
any
play them twice
every
a
year, twice
year.
a year. Yeah,
Right. And they wouldn't do that anymore.
yeah,
That's the equivalent of what's going on
yeah,
here?
yeah.
Okay. I could see how that'd be a little problem. Just because uh, fanatics of their sports teams and their home teams, especially, they really like those rivalry games. When I'm a White Sox fan, I like watching the Cubs games, and I watch it with more enthusiasm. So if those games were to go away, it'd be kind of disappointing. I like watching when they play against like the Cleveland Indians, the Detroit, all
Cleveland
those.
Indians don't exist no more, man.
Well, not the Indians,
The
the
Guardians.
Guardians or Commander. No, the Commanders are Redskins. But
Yeah,
yeah,
formerly, yes.
right. But that's what makes it exciting. But now let's say they scramble up the divisions a little bit, they mix it around. I would assume the first couple years it would be weird, but then you would make new rivalries. You would make new people that you kind of quote unquote hate, and you want your team to beat them all the time. So maybe this would be an issue in the nearsighted, but maybe in the long term with the money and the restructuring, it would create new rivalries. And then maybe they could even bring back the old ones for like a special thing. Like, all right, yeah, you haven't seen this in 10 years, but here's the Green Bay Packers versus the Chicago Bears, 10 years in the making kind of thing. And it could be a
So
special event.
yeah, that's what Notre Dame did. So before they have like this special deal with the ACC, they would play five Big Ten teams a year: Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, um, like Wisconsin, Indiana, Northwestern. Like they would rotate them, but they would always play Purdue, Michigan State, and Michigan every year, and two other Big Ten teams. When they signed this deal with the ACC a while back, that kind of went out the window, so they weren't going to be playing Michigan every year. And then they signed a deal where, oh, this year I got an opening. Michigan? Do you guys want to play us? We do a home and home, one in Michigan and one in Notre Dame. And it turned into a big thing because we haven't seen these teams play in like 5, 6 years.
Right.
So it turned into like you said, a spectacle, and people were like, but that's the thing, people were, even when it was a yearly thing, it was like a big fucking game, and now it's even like twice as big. But again, I'm just saying, like it was bound to happen. I didn't think it was gonna happen this fast. But the way college football was forever, that's gone. It's dead and buried with the way we're moving forward with these two mega conferences because of TV money, and the money's so big, you'd be dumb not to take it. And I don't blame the schools for taking it. It's just everything that made college football special, the rivalry games and all that. Like some of that's gonna get tossed off to the side. Like you're literally, like I said, Nanny, you're tossing away 100 years of being part of that conference for money. It's just like there's no loyalty, I guess I'm trying to say. And like they're ditching it. The only reason they're ditching it is because of money. They're not gonna try to fix it or not. Let's do this. They're like, we're out of here. And like you're leaving a sinking ship, and it's gonna be interesting seeing how the SEC responds, because there's already rumors they're trying to get some of the Florida schools and Clemson, and like I said, it's college football the way we grew up. For the way I grew up, I caught the end of like how it was in the early '90s, and then with the BCS, that kind of started changing everything, and then the college football playoff, they saw how much money they made, and they wanted to expand it, and there was so much money. It's just like there's no way it was gonna stay the way it was. Um, And like I said, it was a great run. But it's gonna be. I'm kind of looking forward to. I'm not gonna lie. I'm looking forward to the mega conferences and the new playoff format that's been in talks for the last 2 years. They're gonna expand it to like 12 teams. It's gonna be like NFL minor leagues. This is where college football is going, and I think the bowl games, which were a big part of college football, is gonna be interesting to see what happens with that format and that structure, because I don't think they're going to exist, because there's going to have playoff games, and people are going to want to watch that. Like, I don't think there's a bowl game called the Potato Bowl. Then would you want to go see that in the middle of Idaho?
Dude, there's so many bowls that to me,
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
I would need a chart to tell me like these are the important bowls, and then this is the Tabasco sauce bowl that nobody
Yes.
cares about kind of thing. And to me, whenever I see, oh, it's a bowl of this, I'm just like, I don't give a shit because everything's a bowl. So what makes you different from the other
Yeah.
dozen that are out there?
So the big ones were played on New Year's Day, the Big Six, and then all this other people who finished second or third in the conference. They played these other leagues and these bowl games, but it got out of control. Like if you have a 6-6 record, you're eligible for a bowl. I think last year Barstool Sports had a bowl. Did you know that? It was like somewhere in Nevada. I don't even
Jesus.
remember. And then Portnoy was like, "We have a bowl game, and we're gonna do this and that." And then it was supposed to air on ESPN, but they got problems with, from my understanding and an article I read, ESPN and Barstool have issues, and then the bowl game got canceled because of the coof. And then, but Dave Portnoy said it got canceled because they couldn't get a TV deal because ESPN backed out last minute or something.
Oh.
But I'm like, oh, Barstool Sports Bowl. Like, okay, I think Boston. It was an ACC team versus somebody else. I really don't remember, but that's what I'm saying. Like the casual fan like yourself, you're like, I don't know what. There's too many of them. I don't know what the fuck any of this means. Which is a valid point. I mean, I'll football. I'll just watch about any football. I could watch college football all day. I've done so. The USFL, I watch a little bit here. If I got nothing else going on, I'll pop it on and I'll watch it. It's bad football, but I'll watch it. I think the championship game's this weekend, isn't it? Or
Right. Yeah, I think so. I've been seeing some stuff on Facebook.
so, but I don't know. It's just my 2 cents on the bowl. I think we'll know next week in Notre Dame, or the next time we record. Notre Dame joins. If they do it, they're saying Notre Dame, Oregon are going to join, and then they're going to have possibly Washington and Stanford join also. If Notre Dame agrees to it, and I don't see why they wouldn't. Money wise, it's too. You can't turn down a guaranteed $100 million for 5 years. Like I think the contract deal's like 10 years or something. So that's $1 billion you're gonna just say no to. That's pretty rough not to. That's pretty tough not to say no to in my eyes.
Right, for sure.
So the other thing I got going on, I'll keep everybody up to date on the college football. I know Danny don't give a fuck, but to me, when I was reading the news yesterday, I'm like, holy shit, like this is big. But lately, me and the missus, she's like, we got to restart watching Game of Thrones. She wants to finish it. So we left off I left off on like season 5.
In your original run?
On the original run. And she got up to like season 6. She got like halfway through season 6. She started watching without me. So I'm like, can we just restart from season 5? So I restarted watching it, and we finished season 7. And it's getting a little confusing.
Yeah, how many seasons is it?
It's 8 seasons.
8? Oh, okay.
So we're up to the season that everybody hates, apparently, right? So yeah, it's I just forgot how. I mean, spoilers for Cersei at the end of season 7. My wife's like, she just went crazy. I'm like, well, she's been through some shit, but she's always been cruel. And I just felt like there was a lot of women power going on, and a lot of them are dead. And then with the Jon Snow and the Battle of the Bastards, and then Sansa and Arya, they're just weird. I don't know. Like all of a sudden, she's like some ninja assassin, the little one, and the older sister is like she's like this clever woman now, smart woman. And then the brother is like, I'm a three-eyed raven or something, and I know the past and the today. And then I don't know. Did you see season 7? Did you watch the whole show?
No, I watched honestly, maybe the first 2 seasons. The first season for sure, but maybe the first 2 seasons. But I got lost, man. There's like 20 main characters, and there's like all these branching stories, and to me, I don't do well on shows like that are too like worldly complicated. Maybe it's just too much for my simpleton brain, but
I think so, yes.
but I just need like 2 or 3 focal stories going on at the same time, and I can manage that. But to have like 6 different stories going on at the same time with all these main players, it just got a little much for me.
So that's the thing then, like I was rewatching it, and I'm just like, I remember some of it I don't. And like, I started watching old clips and some YouTube episodes, people talking about explaining like, it's
Like
just at the end,
recapping.
yeah, it's just like a lot of conspiracy shit, like people plotting and like Littlefinger and the Tyrells and the Baratheons and the fucking bastard guy. It's just like, I was just like, I don't fucking know. And then I don't want to give too much spoilers, but in the season 7, um, there's like more fucking incest going on. It's just like, what the fuck is going on? And then the wall with the fucking wildlings and the fucking zombies. It's just like, I mean, it's good because you know why it's kind of, I like it. They kill off a lot of characters, and then like old characters reappear that you kind of forgot about. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I guess he's important now. And like, we were watching the end of the beginning of season 7. If I remember, the brother that's like a psychic, he has a couple episodes, then he disappears. The whole series, I think, until the season finale, he reappears. And I'm just like, whoa, now he's important because he can see shit like, yeah, this motherfucker did this. Yeah, he's guilty or whatever. And I'm just like to me, that's like, they just use that to wrap it up. And then it's good, but also, yeah, it's something I felt like I shouldn't we shouldn't have taken a break from it, you know. But we need a little bit of a distraction, so we started rewatching them, and we're down to the last season, so we're gonna try to watch it before before the 4th of July ends and see what we can do. But season 7 was a really short season, and I still recommend it. But everybody's warned me that season 8 sucks. I don't know. That's what everybody in the internet says, it sucks. So I'm like wondering like what the fuck's going on? What's gonna happen?
Yeah, I don't know if people just hate the way it ended or the whole season really is terrible. I know some people that watched Game of Thrones and they had a cheat sheet next to them to keep track of everything so that they could watch it, and then it would say like, all right, Xerxes is doing this, and they would look on their cheat sheet and be like, oh, okay, that's Xerxes, or here's where Xerxes is on the map, or whatever they were referring to. So to me, it sounds interesting, but it sounds like a big thing where you need to devote time.
Yeah,
You can't step away like you did, because then you might be kind of lost and kind of like trouble keeping track of things.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, all you know is the Targaryen race or whatever, they ruled Westeros forever until they killed the Mad King, and then like all hell broke loose. But they make it sound like those people ain't around. And then I was watching this like guy talking about, there's a lot of them people just don't know about it, and he started breaking down all the episodes where like, that's a Targaryen, this guy's a Targaryen. It was like a whole shitload of them. Just like, whoa, are they in hiding or like what the fuck is it's only the only known two in the show that made a big deal was Daenerys and her brother, and her brother gets killed right away, right, or whatever, and it's just her. But supposedly they're like all over the fucking place, and so like that's why I said like, and then they reveal some stuff, you know. But I'll keep everybody in a little. But it is yeah, there's a lot of shit, and then I was seeing these people talk about it on YouTube. The books are just like, it's a lot of shit in the books too, and the show really uh delved away from the books because I think they needed like a better story, you know, or keep it more cohesive, more tight.
Oh wow, so the TV show is different from the books then.
Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was crazy. That's why I said like I'm like, whatever, man. Like, it was yeah, there's just so much shit going on, and my wife's like somewhat confused, and we talk amongst each other, And I was just like, yeah, like it's like I don't know, like let me watch this, like let's watch these clips to explain it, and you kind of have like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that, and it explains like a lot of things,
Now, do you guys talk during the episode or do you wait until the end?
mostly to the end. But I remember like they brought up, so there was a couple characters they were talking about, like I fought with your father, and I'm like, isn't that the father that the guy that was in like the Night's Watch? She goes, I think so. And then like, yeah. And I'm like, wait. This guy did something bad, and his dad disowned him. And then his dad went and joins the Night Watch. Shouldn't it be the other way around? When you fuck up, you go to the Night's Watch. Like it was fucking weird. I'm just like, I don't know. Like it didn't make sense to me, but I don't know if that's how it went down in the book. Because the sword that Jon Snow has was given to him by this guy at the Night's Watch, and like it's like a fucking like, according to this guy, it's like a badass fucking sword and all this shit, and a sword that could shoot fire and all this bullshit. And I'm just like, well, they haven't showed any of that in all the seasons that I've seen,
Hmm.
so I don't fucking know.
Is it better than the Sword of Grace, Coleman?
I don't know, man. I think the only one that beats that one is the Lionel sword, because that shit grows. I always wonder how fucking long you get that thing.
Yeah, what's the name of that sword again? The Sword of Omens.
Sword of Omens, yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, that was a badass sword. I wish I had that toy, man. I always wanted that toy that extends out and gets longer. When they re-ramped the cartoons, I saw some cool toys come out, and I wanted to buy the Sword of Omens, but I was just like, nah, what am I gonna do with this thing? I'm just gonna stick it in some corner somewhere and never see it. But yeah, when I was a kid, I always wanted that sword. It always looked pretty cool.
So, like, do you remember when they killed Ned Stark? Do you remember that? Did you watch those
Is that the
episodes?
first king?
No, that's the king of the north of Winterfell, the Stark.
Dude, when I first started watching Game of Thrones, I really got enamored by this first king that was like in season one. He was in the Lord of the Rings. He was like
Yeah, the guy that goes, "Winter is coming."
the shifty eyed guy in Lord of the Rings. The guy
Hmm.
that was kind of sneaky and he kind of wanted to take the ring for himself. That guy. And he was like a king in Game of Thrones. And when I saw him, I'm like, oh, cool, man. He looks badass as a king. And then he only lasted like 2, 3 episodes
Yeah,
and they killed him off. And I'm like, well, what the hell? I'm like, this guy's gone already? I'm like,
yeah, they killed him. I think like at the first season.
right, right.
So there's a sword that like it's a badass fucking sword, and it's his sword, and it's
Okay.
made out of like the special steel, and they behead him with that sword, and then they like melt down the fucking sword and make two swords out of it, and like that's another big deal that this is gonna play an important role in the upcoming episodes. I'm just like I don't remember any of that shit. I don't even remember talking about the goddamn sword. I mean, I really don't remember.
Yeah, nah. I've been wanting to watch it, but as well, I don't have HBO Max or wherever it's on, so it's a little difficult for me to watch it. But I wouldn't mind giving it another shot. But I guess I'd have to sign on to HBO and see if I give it
You need
another
to get
whirl.
you're gonna have to watch some YouTube videos to get some clarity. Then you need the Cliff Notes version of it, because yeah, man, it's a not complicated. There's a lot of fucking backstory and everything's connected, which is
Right.
good and bad. But yeah, the break kind of like threw me off. But the overall episode wise, it's been pretty good, and I'm actually eager to see season 8 just to get it over with. But even though everybody's shitting on it, but with that said, I'll keep everyone posted on that and college football. But let's go see what Danny's up to. It is kind of wedding season, I would say. So you did you go to it looks like you went to a wedding recently.
Yes, sir. I went to my cousin's wedding. It's my first big gathering family thing post COVID. And I gotta say, other than a few masked people, it was like COVID never existed. Everybody was just shaking hands, hugging, sharing drinks, fellowship, and it was just like all really cool, man. Um, I don't know if anybody came out of it sick afterwards with COVID, because like I know initially when COVID started lightening up and some people started gathering, people would, like mass, I forgot what they call it, mass transmission sites, or I forgot what they used to call them, where people would get sick out of it. But no, I
Super
haven't.
spreaders.
Super spreaders, right? I haven't heard anything like that for this wedding, but back to the wedding itself, man, it was awesome. It was awesome. It was good drinks, good food, man. They had chicken and steak and good music as well. And probably the only thing I would say knocking is that it started really late. I believe the reception started at 6, and by the time all the best man and all the people had to say their speeches, cutting the cake, the first dance, by the time all of that got done, it was like, man, almost 8 o'clock. So we didn't start eating until then. And then, by the time all that was done, the dancing didn't start until like maybe 10:30, man. So it wasn't a lot of time for dancing afterwards. So if you came for dancing or food, you had to wait a minute. But it was a good time, man. It was a good time getting together with family, seeing everybody, and just hanging out and enjoying the time together for sure.
Do you feel that were you really concerned about the coof, or you moved on from that? Oh yeah, because especially with large gatherings, it could be kind of weird, but at some point you can be like, whatever.
Well, I guess now that you bring that up, this is technically the second. I did go to one of my buddies' quinceañera party that they had, and there was the first time that I kind of felt like a concern about it, but at the same time, you're kind of trying to live past it. You already got it, so you're just like, well, I got it already. What are the chances that I'll get it again at that particular event for the quinceañera? But at the wedding, I gotta say, I didn't really think about it unless I saw somebody like in a mask and it just brought it back into my mind that, COVID is still out there kind of thing. But otherwise, I've gotten COVID. I've gotten uh, 3 of the 5 suggested vaccines. So to me, and even getting those 3, I didn't really want to get all 3, but nonetheless, I did get them. And I kind of feel like we're past it to a certain point. Maybe it'll linger around, kind of like the flu. It'll always be there in the background, but it won't be this heavy 1,000 people a day killer anymore. It'll just be something similar to what the flu used to be. But yeah, man. As far as the wedding goes, it was really cool, man. I know my wife had a good time. Unfortunately, there was no kids allowed. It was all adults, which seems to be more of a common thing nowadays. Kind of to save a few bucks, you don't invite kids, so it's just all adults. Um, but yeah, man, it was cool for me and my wife. It was kind of far from where we live now because like I mentioned, we moved out to Lake County, so it was back at DuPage. So we had to get a hotel that was kind of close by there, just because I wanted to have a good time and I wanted to drink and I didn't want to deal with driving all the way back to where I live. So
Or a
yeah,
guy telling you about part numbers
right,
of his place of previous employment.
yeah, there was a cousin that had a few too much to drink that I used to work with, and he did get a little excited that he still remembered part numbers in our system. But yeah, man, there was a few people that were tipsy. There was a few people that were enjoying themselves for sure. I enjoyed myself too. I don't think I was to the point where I was speaking belligerent, but I was definitely having a good time and enjoying myself. Had to pay attention when I drove home. I don't want to say that I was drunk behind the wheel or anything like that, but I was definitely feeling that things were happy. So definitely excited to get back to the hotel and take my shoes off and kind of relax and sleep off some of that alcohol.
So, what did you have? Did you have I'm assuming you had the photo booth. Did you have any special tables with like food or desserts or anything like that?
He did have a dessert table. I saw like conchas and some other pastries. But to be honest, since I'm diabetic, I don't really go over there anymore. And they did have the usual photo booth with all the funny stuff that people put on to kind of take pictures, digital pictures with where they'll email you a copy or you fill out this thing and they'll give you information or a scan code or something or other. Um, and then they had a martini bar where there was just a guy just doing martinis and that's all he did. So the ladies really favored that table and went over there and got. I know Alana got this sour apple martini, and she was drinking that the night. And yeah, man, it was really cool, man. I'm glad I went. Glad everybody got together, and it seemed like everybody was having a good time. So yeah, it was cool, man. It was cool to go. But just some other quick stuff that I was up to, man. I on Paramount Network, I watched this movie called Jerry and Marge Go Large. Have you heard about that, Andy, or you even aware of what that's at? What is that?
I don't know. Isn't that the guy from Heisenberg or something?
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's I forget his name. I just had it on the tip of my
Brian
tongue.
Cranston or something.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's him and his wife that's in the movie. They end up like finding a loophole in the lottery because first he worked for like a cereal company. I want to say I can't remember what company he used to work for, but like Kellogg's, and he used to be a money analyst guy. So he used to be in the numbers, and he's retiring. So um, he's really into stuff like that. Like he was playing what's that Japanese
Keno.
Koiki, something like that, where it's like Japanese numbers, and you see scenes where he's just kind of like always thinking, he's always doing things with numbers, and while he's sitting there contemplating, what the hell am I going to do for the rest of my life? Um, because now he's retired. He sees the rules for a lottery game and he starts doing the numbers. He starts doing all this like long arithmetic, math. You see him going through all the probable variables for chances of winning, chances of losing, payouts. And after everything is said and done, he finally finds that if you bet a certain amount, your chances of winning exponentially increase. So he ends up taking out like this sum of money out of his savings, of his retirement money, and goes out and tries it, kind of fails, tries it again, starts winning some money. And then finally he brings his wife into it, and it just snowballs into this huge thing where the whole town gets wind of it because it's like a small little Mayberry town where it's probably like,
Mm-hmm.
100 people or so in this town.
A
And
close close knit town.
right, for sure. And yeah, man, he starts convincing the whole town to get into it, and they go and they start taking advantage of this loophole and winning a ton of money. There's a college as well. I forget what college. I want to say it's like Harvard, where they also find the loophole, but because this large group is winning money now, Harvard can't win as much, and then that starts playing a part into the movie as far as this Harvard group of kids. They want to win more money, but because Jerry and Marge are winning a little bit at their town, so they start conflicting there. Really cool, funny movie. My wife really liked it. It was just a cool, refreshing movie with no like you know agenda, or at least nothing that I could see. It just seemed like a good, wholesome, funny new movie that came out. It was on the Paramount Plus network. So yeah, we watched that
How
and we
how
enjoyed it for
much were
sure.
they winning? Like they were playing like the actual like Mega Million thing, and that's what they were winning, or like the you pick four or something.
Yeah, I mean it was akin to like the big game, like the Mega Million, but it was a second chance, like a second chance Mega Million, where you don't win the grand pot, but you have a second chance of
Yeah,
winning on the
yeah.
next drawing, and you make like a quarter of what you could have won before. And that's the odds one that he figured out. And so he ends up winning, at first, like, yeah, I won 4,000, and then he ends up doubling it. And now I won 12,000 this time go around. So then he puts more money and he keeps doubling it down. He keeps putting his winnings back into it. And then by the end of it, I think the documentary or the movie says something to the fact of the town won like $1.5 billion or something like that. It was like
Oh, so it's based on real life?
oh yeah. It's based on a real story, a true story. This guy, I'm assuming they kind of fudged a few things because it kind of seems a little too happy ending, where like, oh, we all win, ha 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 ha, we all got this money. But you never know. Maybe it did happen that way. But yeah, man, it's based on a true story, and they end up revealing the amount. I can't remember how much it was, but yeah, this guy won a ton of money for his city, which was going bankrupt because the city, all the little mom and pop shops, like the little bakery store, had closed down. The other store that does hardware, they were going out of business, and it was just a really small knit store, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody was going to like the bigger box stores, and these little mom and pop stores were going away. And so because of this, and because he reinvigorated the town and gave everybody shares and told them, hey, you want to bet in on this? I found the loophole. Bet in 500 bucks, and I'll double that by next month quarter, or whatever the deal was. I forget what the numbers were. And yeah, man, he just started making money for everybody, man. And everybody just, it kind of gets a little ridiculous, man, where they're starting to bring like trucks with like those semi connector things where they connect those trailers on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just full of Tupperwares with tickets in it. And, they got to go through each one and scan it and be like, all right, this one we won. This one we only won this. This one we won a
Oh,
free
so it's
ticket.
like
This
it's
one.
spread out between like you won 5, 20, 100
Right, right.
after the whole multitude if you bet this much. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's not just one ticket that they buy and they win
Yeah.
this money.
No, yeah, no, I'm assuming is like we spend this much, we're like expecting a return of this, but it's
Right.
not through like one ticket spread out through the whole amount of tickets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once they start getting really big, like where the whole town is invested in this thing, they actually have to bring the convenience store into the team or whatever. They make like a small company out of it, and they have to bring the convenience store owner into it. They're like, hey man, if you help us out and just let us exclusively use this machine, we'll give you X amount of money or whatever. And so they just there all day, just hitting the enter button, getting these tickets out, because the guy starts calculating how long is it going to take to, get $40,000 worth of tickets out of this machine. It's just like, oh, well, with my calculation, we're going to have to stand here for 6 hours. And so, that's how some of the movies pass by. It's just them trying to figure out how to maximize buying their tickets. Because it takes so long to hit enter, wait for the piece of paper to print out, stack it, and then once all that whole process is done, somebody's got to go through each ticket and see what won what, and kind of keep
Yeah, in my
track of
head,
it.
I'm like, they're probably spread out. They all hit like different stores or something, but they just got the one guy, the local like gas station or convenience store, and they're like, yeah, he's like, do it.
Right, right.
He's like, just let us use the machine 24/7.
So it was a cool, funny movie. Yeah, we enjoyed it. Another movie that I watched a while ago, and it was that bad that I can't really remember too much about it, is that I watched that No Time to Die, the James Bond one. I don't
Right.
know if you've seen that one, or you even had any interest to watch the latest
Nah,
James
I
Bond
mean,
movie.
I'm a huge James Bond fan, but the Daniel Craig movies, I couldn't get into them. I was kind of disappointed what they did with the character, so I haven't really. I think the last one I watched is the one after Casino Royale with Daniel Craig. I don't even remember it. I stopped watching them.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of James Bond. I mean, I've watched a ton of them, GoldenEye, and you know, a bunch of the old ones with Pierce Brosnan, and some of even the older ones, and then even the newer ones where it got more like Jason Bourne, where they're just constantly running and fighting and whatnot. But yeah, this last one, oh man,
It was
it
not good.
was it was probably one of the worst ones that I've seen of the James Bonds. Really dull and boring, and it was just like
Really?
action into action into action. Uh, then at the end, what kind of got me is, to me, James Bond is a badass. To me, he's like a tough guy that always figures out how to get out of these predicaments. He's always got the laser shooting towards his balls, and he figures out how to get out of the
I
trap.
think that would motivate any man.
It's like it's always like that. It's always like this death-defying thing that he's got to get out of. And in this one, he could not do it. It's like he's broken, he's done, and these this group of women have to come and help him.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, it's like, I get it. Women are powerful, women can help and all that good stuff, but that's not what this Bond movie is about. I mean, it's just like, that's not what James Bond to me is about. It's about him being a
That
badass,
went kind of
figuring out.
woke.
Right, right. Um, Now, I mentioned that to another guy that had watched it around the same time that I watched it, and he said that he didn't really see it that way. He just saw it as a supporting character helping him figure things out.
Dude, it's
But,
fucking Bond, dude.
but
You don't get depressed or nothing.
right, to me, that was kind of my argument
He's
against it.
an alpha male.
Is that he is this badass guy that doesn't need a supporting character to really help him. He's always figured out his own, and then at the end, he sleeps with the girl. And that's a James Bond movie. I could write it right here in a few minutes and just give you a few plot points, and we can make a James Bond movie. But yeah, this one was a little different, man. And I gotta say, at the end of it, it seems like this chapter of the Bond movies is done with. And I've even heard of whispers that they're looking for a new Bond character to play the 007 moniker. So we'll have to see how that runs, and if they do end up, switching gears and going to something different.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, like even on the first time when Daniel Craig, they kind of made him. They made some tweaks to the character to me that, like you said, defined that character. And he was like, I don't care, like fuck that. I don't got time to be, with macking it to this girl or this woman. And I'm just like, what? Like, come on, bro. All the Bonds did all that shit. And like, okay, they're trying to change it. And then they had him running around like he was Jason Bourne and shit. Like, this is not Bond, dude. Like, whatever. And then I think I watched the one after that. I'm like, I'm not feeling any of this shit. And they've done that with many characters. The reboots or whatever, they came back. Like with the Matrix is the same knock. The Terminator movies, they did that shit. They did that with the Star Wars movies, where they make the main character was 99% of the time it's a male. Like, oh, he's lost, he's confused, he's broken, he needs somebody to help him, or he's always been weak. And it's just like, what the fuck's going on? Like he needs to get bailed out. And I mean, some of these characters, I don't know, man. It's just that's the way that's the current trend right now.
Right.
And and kind of like, I don't know if you heard about the Lightyear movie, the plot on it. If you read about the plot, it makes kind of that Lightyear character weak. And like it's just messed up. And I'm just like, that's why nobody went to watch it, because they don't want to see this stuff.
So he doesn't go to infinity and beyond.
Nah, dude, it's like he's broken, he's conflicted, because what he's supposed to do is like the old school way, and people are like, "Well, that's not the right way," and like you should be doing this new woke shit. And he kind of like goes and does it. That, I didn't see the movie, but that's what I read, and that's why like the movie bombed, because they're like, we don't want to see this like BS agenda, and like we're done with all that. And unfortunately, a lot of the new movies are kind of like that. Um, and like, to me, it's like I know they're not marketing the movie to me. I'm an old man, but that just like fuck, man. Like, how can you guys fuck this up, And they did. But apparently, I'm not the only one that thinks this way. That's why all these movies tank.
No, yeah, for sure, man. Well, Andy, speaking of infinity and beyond, or yeah, it's infinity and beyond, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's jump into our article of the week. So, Andy, our article of the week, it is in space and beyond. It's NASA, man. I found this article on the AP News. NASA, the heads, NASA, give us back our moon dust and cockroaches. Now, I wasn't even aware of this until I read this article, but I guess back in the day in 1969, back when the Apollo 11 missions, they brought back moon dust, like pounds and pounds of this shit.
A lot of
And
moon rocks, yes, and
yeah,
dust. Yeah.
and they ended up they wanted to know if it was safe for people to use it, so they fed it to cockroaches. They fed it to
And other
cockroaches,
animals. Yeah.
right? And I guess from the results and the test results and observing it, nothing harmful really happened to them other than they're eating dirt, which I guess is cool for these animals. But nothing worse happened to them if they were to eat earth dirt. And so they found that it's safe to kind of use and whatever. So they ended up starting to try other experiments. But needless to say, the original one of the original labs that did these tests for NASA ended up keeping the samples, and then that scientist ended up years ago selling it in an auction, and then it changed hands, and this I guess this couple kept it for a while, and then they ended up putting it on a public auction trying to sell it. NASA found out and they put the kibosh on it and said, no, no, you can't sell this stuff. This is government property. You got to give it back to us, kind of thing. And I just found it kind of hilarious that all these years later, because this auction is just recent, it was just like recently in the news where they were trying to sell it. All these years later, they totally forgot about this moon dust and the cockroaches. And I was just curious, man, did you even know about this and that this was going on?
No, I know they brought back a lot of moon rocks from the Apollo missions, and I always they have them on display, or apparently they were handing them out to higher learning institutions or academia like universities. I think this one went to the University of Minnesota, and they're doing testing on it, and they kind of got the results, and then typical NASA. I mean, I have a love hate relationship with NASA. They always seem to be losing shit. It's unreal, and to them to forget something is from the first moon landings, they're bringing back rocks and they just ship them out and like, oh yeah, like they forgot to ask for it, or they're waiting for somebody else to say, I got these rocks. What you want me to do with them? It's fucking moon rocks. I mean, like they're just exactly in everywhere on planet Earth. The article goes on to say he had them like in his fucking living room. Like, I have a moon rock. See,
Right.
and he was using it to show off in cocktail hour and shit. And then he passes away, and his kids sold it off to some other party, and now they're trying to make money off of it. And NASA has just a bad track record of losing stuff. They lost some of the original um, movies that from the moon landing. They lost some of the negatives from the moon landing. Um, it's just it's amazing how much they can lose. And the other thing that caught my eye, the value of it, I think they sold it for the auction, or the starting bid was like 400 grand. I would
Yeah,
figure
that's
it'd
what
be
they were
more.
expecting. Right.
Yeah, I thought it'd be like $1 million. I mean, how often? Who can say they can own moon rocks? You know?
Well, it's very little. I was looking at the amount that they were selling, and to be honest, it's like if you were sprinkled salt on a plate for like 1 second and just shake your salt shaker on it. That's about the equivalent amount of dust that they were selling. So it wasn't a whole ton of it. It wasn't like a bag full of dust and rocks. It was like a sprinkle full of salt equivalent that they were selling. So that's what I found kind of curious because I'm like, man, how much is this? And I started Googling it and it came out to be very little. So maybe that's why it wasn't worth as much because I kind of thought the same thing. I'm like, oh, this has got to be like $1 million. But maybe it's that it wasn't that much material, and just a
Yeah.
couple of cockroaches.
The cockroaches that were fed moon dust were brought to the University of Minnesota, where entomologist Miriam Brooks dissected and studied them. And then in an article from 1969, I found no evidence of infectious agents. Brooks said, who died in 2007. She found no evidence that the moon material was toxic or caused any other ill effects in the insects, according to the article. And then her daughter sold them in 2010 to
Right.
an undisclosed person, and they're the ones trying to sell it right now. So I want to know how much the daughter get. But
Yeah.
yeah, so now I'm wondering like what other universities just have like all this shit, and they're like the government forgot about that they have them, you know?
And if somebody else doesn't even have any, are they even gonna say anything at this point? Maybe after this came out, they're like, "Oh, screw it, man. I'm gonna have to sell this on a private auction because
Yeah,
I
that's
can't
what I'm
publicize it."
thinking.
Right.
Yeah, the guy was trying to maximize his investment, return on his investment, and now he's just like, I'm fucked because I went to a public auction house, and they're like, whoa, whoa, hold up, that's ours. So I get it, but yeah, I'm like I said, I'm wondering like what else is out there that they forgot that's from the moon or any other items that they brought back from space. Well, I mean, mostly the moon, I guess, but yeah, and like the film too. You think that would be like invaluable? They would like try to preserve it and digitize it, and then they're like, "Yeah, we lost a lot of stuff uh throughout the years." I'm like, or I'm thinking like this stuff gets stolen, or they just don't want people to have access to it and stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of curious to see, yeah, what else have they lost that, they didn't keep track of, like who's doing their bookkeeping, man. Like, all right, you're gonna, kind of like the library, you're gonna check this article out, or you're gonna check this thing out. You have to bring it back within 2 months, otherwise we'll come after you, or whatever the case would be. Or maybe you leave a deposit, like, all right, you're gonna leave us, $250,000 here as the deposit. You're going to take this, and then once you bring it back, we'll give you the 250,000 back, or whatever the case would
That's
be.
what I'm saying. Like back in the day, it was a little bit different. You had more confidence in the government and like institutions such as like universities, but today it's I think they were just expecting the university to do the right thing. Maybe they just forgot, or they were waiting for the government to do something. And that's how stuff like this happens. Is like people say like I got stuff. My dad was in the army, or my uncle, and they had all this paperwork that they never filed or got picked up from the government, and then that's how shit gets out. And um and and it's just like it's I'm pretty sure there's a lot of fucking stories out there, or a lot of people that have stuff in their attic and their basements that belong to their grandfather, their uncle, their dad, that just they never got around to sending it or getting it picked up or taking it into the office, whatever the case, and it's just sitting there until that person dies, and they start going through shit, and um, they find all this stuff. Like I was watching this documentary on J. Edgar Hoover. He had all these files on senators and congressmen, people in political office, and movie stars
Right, to like blackmail, right?
to blackmail, to use it like, I know your wife's gay, or I know you're gay, or I know you have illegitimate child,
Right.
like all this stuff. And when he died, he instructed his personal secretary, like, when I'm gone, you need to fucking shred all this shit. As soon as she found out he died, she went in there and she shred a bunch of shit, and they found almost all of them gone. They found some of his files because the file got misfiled in like some other FBI thing, and that's the only reason shit pops up, because it got misfiled. And that's when they find the stuff about the Kennedys and Martin Luther King, all that, because that file was never put in his personal file cabinet. It was put out there, and it was misfiled.
Wow, that's crazy.
Right? That's
Yeah.
how big the government is, and that's the only way shit gets found out. That so imagine how many things are like they have somewhere that are misfiled. They're just sitting there. People, it's so top secret. People who were in charge of it are not there, and just it gets forgotten.
Right, right. Yeah, man. It is peculiar. I mean, like, what if they had like pieces of spacecraft back and they sent these out for testing, and now this spacecraft is kind of out there somewhere else, and people are just kind of like
Well,
jumping around with it.
so think about it. I think I talked about it in a podcast NASA, I believe the Air Force sent like some type of drone into space. I don't know if you remember that. They're like, oh, it's just doing survey missions. Some people think it was retrieving satellites or something. I don't know, but we just knew, they admitted that they sent something out to space. They really didn't say what its mission was, but it was out there like for a week, and then it came back, and people are like, what was it doing? We don't know. People think all sorts of stuff, that there was collecting stuff in space or getting satellites, or who fucking knows. But I mean, I imagine it brought something back. It was all covered up and stuff. You just see it land. It was like a huge drone that came back. I think it was from the Air Force, but I think it had stuff in there.
Right, man. I know they're still sending stuff out there for mostly for pictures and stuff, and I know they want to send like a spacecraft to the moon again in the near future. I think it's like in the next 5 years the plan is to send another spacecraft into the moon.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, hopefully we get back into the space business before some other rogue nations really put some effort into it, and you don't want to be left behind. But I mean, I always heard that we had nukes in space, so did the Russians. So we'll see what happens. But that being said, we want to thank y'all for listening. Remember, you can follow Freeform Network on Facebook and Twitter at Freeform Network. Also, send your questions and suggestions to ffnquestions@gmail.com. When your relative you know and passed away, or your granddad of dad, and you guys were going through personal stuff, did you find any top secret files or something that NASA sent, or they worked at a government installation or like a contractor, and you're like, what is this? Like, did you ever find any of that stuff? If you did, let us know at ffnquestions@gmail.com. I'd be interested to see what here people find besides other personal embarrassing shit you might find after people pass away. And when I'm in my deathbed, Danny, you're next to me, I'm gonna tell you to go to my house and get rid of all my porno DVDs, like some Larry David shit. Don't get
let me know. Let me know what the stash is.
So don't forget to check our webpage at freeformnetwork.podbean.com. There are links to all the apps, platforms that we're on. We're in a ton of them. Whatever you do, like, subscribe. That helps us out immensely. And YouTube, we're on there too. For Freeform Radio, we got Danny.
Yes, sir, man. Everybody go out there, enjoy yourselves, enjoy your time while you can. Enjoy your family, and yeah, man, go out there and have a good time.
It's all good, Andy. We'll catch y'all next time, and you guys enjoy your weeks.
That was cool, Dad.